Welcome everybody to this episode of the Women in Technology Spotlight. Today I have with me Solange Abou Nasr. She is a strategic account manager in the banking and financial services at VMware based out of Dubai. Hi Solange, nice to have you.
Hello, thank you, pleasure.
It's so nice having you on my channel finally. I've been looking forward to this. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are.
Yes, thank you. And hello to everybody. And I'm really looking forward for this discussion today. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm originally from Beirut, from Lebanon. And today I'm living in the beautiful city of Dubai, the dream of everybody. I'm a middle child among five, and not very surprising to me, I have two elder sisters and two younger brothers, and I'm sure this is what started my identity revolution. I'm actually married as well, and I have three amazing boys. One of them is 11 and a half, and I have twins. They are also 9 years old. So yeah, this is a handful of responsibilities, but also joyful. So I lived in Beirut, and among a big family, as I said, it started my identity revolution, because I wanted both the worlds. I wanted to be with my brothers because they were so active and fun, and I wanted also to be with my sisters. They had this amazing soft life. So I always thought of myself as a human being, an individual human being, and I never had a stereotype of me being a girl. And this is something that I carried throughout my life. I never look at myself as a woman as such. I'm just a human being. And this also pushed me to always think that I have to be objective oriented, target oriented. And I always felt that I need to put my life on track. I need to be financially independent, because I had a big family, so I didn't want to ask my father for money every time I want to go and come. So I ended up having a small business at the age of 9, and I was enjoying it because I didn't want to ask anybody for anything. So I think this is something that helped me be who I am today. And I think I call myself a resilient older child. I still have this child somewhere in me.
That's such an interesting backstory. So the big family with two elder sisters, two younger brothers, and you are actually a middle child. And I have this notion, maybe it's not true, but this is my experience, that middle children are always a bit rebellious. So they're always a bit more inclined to do things differently. So I think your story shows that as well. And what I also loved a lot is that you said you saw yourself as a human. And I think this is something we should aspire to, not to think about ourselves as women or men, but, try to be ourselves. So this is an important point. And there's one thing I really want to know is what that business was that you had as a 9-year-old.
Yes, so at the age of 9, I had two things to do, actually. I was doing bracelets, and at that time there was no YouTube, so I had to figure out how to do the bracelets, and I had to do earrings and stuff, and I used to sell them at school. And we didn't have phones at that time, so I used to sneak out of my house and go and work as a librarian in a side job. So I used to work for 2-3 hours and then earn some money and come back home. And so I did enjoy the non-technology piece of our lives at that time.
That's so nice. I love the library part as well. So I was wondering, because you say you grew up in Beirut, and obviously I would have expected, because I have no idea about Beirut, obviously, is that you would have grown up in a more protected environment. Because I grew up in Nigeria, for example, I wasn't allowed to leave the house without my parents knowing or sneaking away. So how did your parents react to you? Because you seem to have been very, what is the word in English? Self-contained, and you did your own thing. How did your parents react to that?
Well, coming to this, I have to say that my mother was very strong. And I only remember my mom working. I only remember, so we were 5 at home, and she had a job. And at that time, there was no maids and nannies and supports system at all. And her family lived very far away. And I always looked at her and I'm surprised and amazed by how strong this lady is. And she honestly raised us exactly the same, girls and boys. And she leaned on us, and she showed us that she's trusting us. When I felt this trust, I actually had to be at the level of this trust, and I never sneaked out in the wrong way. It was only to grow myself and to tell her that I am worth this trust. But she trusted us, and this is what mattered. But also, just to say that Beirut is not a non-safe environment. So where we lived was a very nice area. People know each other. We used to even have a lot of volunteer work in the area. We used to go, and I used to teach in the church for a very long time. So I was either in the church or doing some work or selling some stuff. So it was always around. So she always knew where to find me if she wanted to find me. So it wasn't that dangerous eventually.
No, that's why I love talking to people from all over the world, because obviously I have no idea what Beirut is like. And I was just, we have this preconceived notions of certain places. Like, for example, my idea of Beirut was that it was dangerous. And it's so interesting to hear your part of the story and also give our audience a glimpse into that life that you had there. So we have, have a better idea of what it was like. So tell me a little bit about your educational life. So you grew up in Beirut. What kind of school did you go to? What kind of degree did you aspire to? What did you do?
Yes, of course. So we attended a normal mixed school in Lebanon. And talking about Beirut, Lebanese people would do anything to give a good education for their children. So they would pay everything for a good school, and we were really going to a great school. When I decided to go for the university, I studied psychology. I wanted to study clinical psychology, and I was very interested in where clinical psychology is taking me until because I always had side jobs for a period of time. I was working with the Standard Chartered Bank in the contact center. And this is where I thought, oh my goodness, psychology, this is not what I wanted to do. I want to sell banking solutions.
Okay.
And this was the best turning point of my life, because I shifted from clinical psychology to the industrial psychology. And that was a brand new major in Lebanon. We were only 7 in this batch. And after finishing industrial psychology and starting in the sales career, I felt that I am actually using a lot of the psychology in the way I manage my business and in the way I am actually working with my customers. So I was never the typical salesperson who will just put their hands in your pocket. So I decided that I want to skill myself more, and I did a master's degree in international business with a focus on strategy. And this is where I developed my unique approach of a customer-centric and value selling strategy on how to use the psychology in building positive and beneficial business relationships. So yeah, this is on the
industrial psychology. That is so interesting. I did not know that this exists. So, and it's also an interesting switch from, a clinical psychology to industrial psychology. And now you are actually still working focused on customers in the banking and finance sector. So this is something that is a link between all these things. I think that moment in working at the bank and realizing this is what you want to do.
So just to tell you on the industrial psychology, what I liked about it is that it always reminded me that whatever solution we provide to our customers should have a value to them on a personal level and on a professional level. And the beauty of it is that while I was working, let's say, in the contact center agent, I was seeing that this small credit card that I'm selling to this person will change his life because he will use it, let's say, to travel, or he will use it to pay the education of their children. Similarly, when I matured and I grew in my career, even let's say today, a multi-cloud solution that I provide to a certain bank, I know that first thing I'll think about it, how this will impact the user, how this will impact the people. When I was selling, let's say, in a previous organization, the actual plastics. So I was sitting in my car, stuck in traffic, and I'm looking beside me, and I imagine all these people around me in their pockets carrying a plastic card that I sold. Just this helps me to be more passionate about what I'm doing, adding value to the community, and this is what matters the most.
This is such a good approach, because I think we tend to forget, even though we always talk about value selling and thinking about the customer, but we tend to forget that link, that direct link of what we're doing to the life of the customer, who we're selling stuff to. So this is such a good approach. And I think something we should always try to remember, even, we're all really passionate about what we do, but this is an aspect that can help us, give us a little more drive still. And I can feel your positive energy and the way you talk about the whole thing, and I can feel the passion that you have. So tell me a little bit more about how you came to be a woman in IT now, because you're working for one of the biggest software companies in the world. What brought you here from the bank you were working at that time?
Yes. So as I told you, I started very early, and I started even as a librarian, and in the library I used to sell books, and then after that I just wanted a job, and then I worked in event management for the longest time ever. I used even to wear these characters, the Winnie the Pooh character jumping around. I used to do every possible thing that gives me puts me on track. I didn't know where I want, and then eventually I landed a contact center agent job in Standard Chartered, and this is the trigger. I was like, yes, this is what I like, and this is where I will grow. And this is honestly something that let me even park my event management, park everything else. So what I didn't park is the volunteering work. So till now, today, I still do the volunteering. Teaching and stuff. So I focused on the IT mainly, not because of the IT, it's my passion to the banking ecosystem that drove me here. And then I said, okay, I love it, it's fine, I'm growing in Standard Chartered, now what? And this is where I decided after getting married to join my husband in Dubai. And I joined a technology company who is also a card processing company. So why I loved it? Because I said to myself, I want to know what happens on the background of the banking transaction. What happens for this card to reach the customer, for the loan to be released to the customer. So it was all driven by the banking passion. And then I found myself moving from a technology space to the other, just because I wanted to cover all the pieces of the banking ecosystem. And without knowing, my passion to banking made me focus into the IT industry. So now I know what happens on the switching side, on the card management, on the ATM, how the ATM gives you the money. It's not as simple as just someone sitting inside. I can tell you, no one is sitting inside. The customer experience, the contact center capabilities. I enjoyed working in the contact center space because I know what contact center agent will face and the challenges they will have. And now recently on the multi-cloud capabilities of VMware, all this for me is not only IT. All this is a banking ecosystem capability, and how the entire capability that the technology is providing is changing people's life. How a person will be able to pay their school fees within the support that we are giving. How, let's say, you are able today to have your application, mobile app available at all times when you need to pay or send money to your parents because of what VMware, let's say, is providing in terms of app modernization and capabilities. So this is mainly what brings me into the passion of IT.
That's such an important topic that you just touched on, and it's one that is very dear to my heart. And this is one of the reasons why I want to have more women in IT, because I think what we need to understand, and you illustrated this so nicely, is that IT is no longer technology. It is something that touches all parts of our lives. When you talk about, sending money to your parents or whatever you're doing, everything is somehow connected to IT. And I feel it's so important that how can I say that this IT, the technology that we build, reflects the whole society, and women are an important part of that. And we need to be there to shape it and to control it as well. And that's why I think it's so important to bring more women into IT. And I love the way you described how the whole banking and the IT impacts, society. And I think it's an important point. But I wanted to ask you initially why you were so passionate about the whole banking thing, but the way you described it, I already understand why, because you see how important all these little financial transactions are for every person's life. So it touches every aspect, right?
Absolutely. We all have our challenges, and eventually it's all supported financially somehow. Whether, let's say, in Lebanon, for a certain time, we had a bank who launched a fertility loan. For people who had fertility issues. They can go and provide their medical reports, and the bank will give them a loan to do a fertility treatment. Yes, on a joke side, it wasn't a joke, but because, let's say, in Lebanon, it's very popular for women to do, let's say, beauty surgeries. We had also a loan for beauty surgeries. But so we have both the extremes. But again, let's say also in the banking, you have your card that is stolen. So your card is stolen, and you need to contact someone to stop it. If the contact center is not up and running, this is a big problem, because the huge loss is something that the person will carry. The entire experience of our lives, unfortunately, is around what banks are providing us from capabilities perspective. And this is where all the companies that I joined, and specifically VMware today, are doing a huge role in making the lives of the people easier by providing the better solutions to the banks and to other organizations as well. But just because I have this passion to banks, and this is where I'm bringing this point. Yes, so specifically more, I also see that today children are more enthusiastic about earning money because of the YouTubers they are seeing, because of the ads they are seeing. Mom, look, this is a shirt that I want to buy, pay online, the PS4 credits. So all this is something also that banks are about to do to change the mentality of the banking ecosystem by offering digital banks. And
true.
So to offer digital banks is actually something to address the younger generation. And this is where the technology is indeed a very important element to simplify the banking transaction, the banking experience, So it's touching everywhere, with the children, the adults, any education, any gender. So it touches everybody's lives.
Yeah, I agree. And banking has always done it. It has always been a very intricate part of our lives. And now IT is too, because the digitalization has, gone into every aspect of our living. And I was wondering, since you have a background in psychology, and then you were at university, then you were in the bank, and then you slowly moved into technology, how was the experience? Is there a difference between working in banking, as banking, or in technology? Did you experience this as a different environment?
Oh, that's a question that I did not prepare for, and I can tell you. Look, on a personal level, I grew in a country where people would stay in a job for 15, 20 years, 30 years, So a banking job in Lebanon is something that everybody would kill for, because it's like a stable job. No one will fire you unless you steal, So for me, I was this young, passionate, full of energy girl coming to work in a bank, and I didn't have even a university degree. I was just, I actually grabbed life very early, and then the HR calls me and he's like, okay, you landed a job. I was 17 years old when I was a full-time employee. So I said, no, I don't want to be a full-time employee. He says, what? Everybody would kill for it. And I hope he will see this, because he will remember me. I said, I don't want to work in this job for 20 years. I want to grow. And he said, you can grow anytime you want. Just choose what you want to do and you can do it. But for now, take the offer. So when actually I came to Dubai, I had a transfer offer from Standard Chartered. And I had the other offer from the technology company. And I said, no, I don't want to sit in the bank, because this is not I don't want anything to lock me. I want to go and sit in the vendor seat. And it's much better for me, at least. I'm talking about myself. It had a different exposure. We are not talking to the retail anymore, to the end user. We are talking to the B2B. We are talking to the actual decision makers. And I was able to do a much bigger impact to people's lives, because I can help the banks taking a better decision to make people's lives better. And the growth is better. The potential is better. And the contact with people is totally different. And I think this gave me this adrenaline rush at every time you go to a customer and you explain to them what values you can give them, and then they say, yeah, why not? It's a good idea. And you grow this idea from a dream that you had in mind, because this is where I wanted to see the banking, to them believing in you. And then this idea becomes a project, and this project becomes somewhere alive somewhere. So I remember on Sheikh Zayed Road, a couple of times I parked my car and took a picture of an advertisement for a product that I worked on with a customer, and they believed in me, So it's this is where the vendor experience is totally different for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's working for a company like ours, you're working on the future, basically. You come with this new technology, you explain it to the customer, and then you make it come true, because you start out with something that the customer has maybe even not thought about, and then you come there and true, you are obviously a person who is very passionate about new technology, knowing how things work. That's what I also heard. You want to understand how things are connected, and you want to do new things all the time. So this is really important for you. And I understand that, because that's what makes this job in IT really interesting.
True.
And you also talked about people, because obviously for a lot of women like us, it's important to have this opportunity to talk to people. It's not just sitting in front of your computer and maybe programming something. It's actually connection and shaping.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's something else I remember that I wanted to ask you, because you talked about volunteering. What kind of volunteer work do you do?
So mainly, what I did not stop from a very young age is teaching. I teach in the church. I started very early, and I still do till now. And I teach religion to small, tiny children, and it's very nice. It's very nice.
That sounds really fun. And the reason I asked was because, obviously this Women in Technology Spotlight, we are trying to target young women and girls to be interested in technology, to be as passionate as you are about the whole thing. And I was wondering if you also talk to like maybe schools and girls in schools about what you do to make them interested. Is that something you also do?
About the women part and about our engagement. So it's mainly to talk to little girls who are in the decision-making stage and invite them to consider the IT industry as a future, because it has a lot of potential. They can invest a lot of their energies and their passion within the IT industry by just being themselves and putting their own rules and the standards. So yes, this is something that we are working on with my colleague in the women part.
Yeah, so I was thinking that maybe you have some insight because you have 3 boys. Yes. Do you have, or do you see any difference in them than to how you approach life, or are you just their role model and they try to be like you, or do you think there is a difference between small or young boys and young girls at that age? I mean, it's hard to generalize, I guess.
I so wish that when they grow, they will consider me a role model, because I think they give me the drive, they give me the push to wake up every day and say, no, you cannot fall, you have to stand up, look strong. If you don't want to be strong, act strong, just for them to see you, So this is interesting that you mentioned. So look, we live in a country that is so amazingly cultural. And to the extent that children here, they don't feel or they don't even think about the diversity, they actually live the diversity in them, So one of the boys, my son Andrew, came to me one day, and he had a major concern because one of the girls in his class was very good in football, and he wanted her to be on his team, but the other boys didn't want her to join because it's a boys' game. And he came to me and he said, "Mom, I have to bring her, she's strong, but I don't understand why they don't want." And I asked him, I said, "Andrew, why do you want her to be in the team if she's a girl?" And he said, "I don't care about her being a boy or a girl. She has the skill. She has a strong kick. She can score, she can play. So I don't care. She's an individual." And for me, I was like 9 years old, telling me the diversity story that we are trying to position today at the 40 years old, So today's generation is ready. Today's generation is neutral to gender, neutral to race, neutral to everything. They are driven by humanity, driven by objectives, driven by success, by passion, by ambition. So there is a huge difference between when I was a young girl and when they are today young boys. And I hope this answers.
It does. And it's very touching, and it gives you hope for the future, really,
Yes.
Because this is what we're trying to achieve, not to think about whether it's a boy or girl, but just think about what you're capable as a human being.
And maybe I think going back to your point of being a role model, because at home, between me and my husband, we don't preach about equality and diversity. We actually live equal, and we actually have it embedded. So we don't do the effort in front of them. So my children are raised in this environment already. So it's we are not, we are actually living the speech rather discussing it only.
And that is so important, because children actually don't listen to what you say, they just see what you do. So if you tell them they should be equal and you don't live it, you could have just as well not say anything, you know.
True.
So this is amazing, but I see that we already passed our 30 minutes, so I already have to wind down the interview.
I'm sorry for that, but it's really exciting discussion. So thank you.
It's so great to talk to you. And just as a final question is there anything you would tell a young Solange that you know now, or maybe a tip you would give, something like a motto or some, I don't know, advice?
If I want to talk to the young Solange, I will have to remind her that the stereotypes, we don't know who did the stereotypes. We don't know who created benchmarks. And I would remind myself to set my own standards based on what would challenge me and what would make me happy. And maybe I will tap myself on the back and say, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's accept it. It's okay to fail. You will be able to stand up. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. And especially the part about thinking about what makes you happy. I think too many women think too much about what makes other people happy, and then, you know, forget to think about themselves.
Yes.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me and talking with me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you so much.